Go ahead and get your yarn color that you're going to use for the wings, and I'm using my Caron Simply Soft, and the actual color of this is Royal Sparkle. It's a blue sparkle. So the first thing we're going to do is make a chain. So just take your yarn, fold it over on itself to form a loop, take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, then hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb. Then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down. And now we're going to make a chain. I'm just going to show you 4 of them on video tutorial, but you're going to make a chain of 44. So you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead, finish a chain of 44. After you finish your chain of 44, we're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So count 4 chains back, and then yarn over, take your crochet hook and go into that 4th chain from the hook, bring up a loop, then make a double crochet, and then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. I'm just going to make a couple of them with you. So yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, make a double crochet, and repeat. So now you should have a total of 42 double crochet. Then you're going to go ahead and make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Then turn your work. Now you're going to go ahead and skip 2 stitches. So you're not going to count the stitch that you made your chain 3 over. You're going to go into the next stitch for 1, next stitch for 2, and then you're going to make a double crochet into that 3rd stitch. So you just yarn over, skip 2 stitches, go into that 3rd stitch, bring up a loop, make a double crochet, and you're going to make a total of 5 double crochet into that same stitch. So we already made the first one. So a total of 5 double crochet into the same stitch. Then you're going to skip 2 stitches and then make 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then repeat. So I'm going to make one more set with you. I'm going to skip 2 stitches and then make 5 double crochet into that 3rd stitch. Then you're going to skip 2 stitches and then make 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Then you're going to repeat that pattern all the way across and then come back. So I have a shell And then I'm going to skip, I have 4 stitches left, I'm going to skip 2 of them and then make 1 double crochet into each of the last 2 stitches. Then chain 3 and turn your work. I had 6 total shells from the previous row. Now we're going to start on the next row. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find that your next stitch from the previous row is a shell. So you're going to skip the next double crochet and you're going to go right to the shell, and you're going to skip the first 2 double crochet in that shell and make a double crochet in the space between the second and third double crochet. You go ahead and bring up a loop and then complete your double crochet. Then you're going to skip that middle double crochet and then make a double crochet between the third and the fourth double crochet. So you're going in the space between the third and fourth double crochet to make 1 double crochet. Then that brings you to the next 2 double crochet from the previous row. You're going to work a shell or 5 double crochet into the space between those 2 double crochet. And this is called the shell variation stitch. So now brings us to the next shell from the previous row. You're going to skip the first 2, make your double crochet between the second and third double crochet, and then between the third and fourth double crochet. So just like you did for the previous shell. Then that brings you to the next 2 double crochet, and you're going to make a shell in between. So 5 double crochet. And you're going to repeat this all the way across. And then come back. So you can see the pattern. So now you can see where I had made 2 double crochet into the previous row's shell, and that leaves me with the last double crochet on the end. What you're going to do is you're going to make a shell into that space between the last shell from the previous row and the double crochet. So you're going to yarn over, go into that space, bring up a loop, and make your double crochet. And you're going to make a total of 5 double crochet into that space. So you're making a shell in that space. Then go ahead and scoot the work over and then make a double crochet into the top stitch of that double crochet on the end. So go into that top stitch and then just make your double crochet. Then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to turn your work. Then you're going to go into, this is your shell from the previous row, so you want to find the between the second and third, and then the third and the fourth, and make your double crochets. So find the shell, see if I'm in the right space. So in the shell, remember you have 5 stitches in the shell, and you want to go between the first, the second and third, and then the third and the fourth. Then that brings you to the 2 double crochet. So you're going to make 5 double crochet into that space. And then you're back to the regular pattern. So between the second and third, make 1 double crochet, and between the third and the fourth, make your double crochet. And you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way back across. So I just wanted to show you that we just finished this last row, and on the opposite side is where the tip of the wing is. And so now I'm at the bottom, and I don't want to, I finished a shell and I have the double crochet from the previous row. This side I am not going to work a shell into that space. You're just going to make a double crochet into the top stitch of that first chain 3 on the end. So this is the side that's going to be on the unicorn. And then this is the wingtip side on the opposite side. So then, after you finish your last double crochet for the row, you're just going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then just turn your work. And then you're just going to make the same design back to the wingtip. So again, this is the shell from the previous row, so you want to go between the second and the third and make your double crochet in the space between the second and third double crochet from the previous row. Then you're going to make a double crochet between the third and the fourth double crochet from the previous row. Then you're just going to make your shell into those two, in a space between those 2 double crochet from the previous row. And then you're just going to repeat that design back across. So now I'm at the next shell, so that means 1 double crochet in the space between the second and the third, and then 1 double crochet between the third and the fourth. Then I'm going to have a shell in the space between the 2 double crochet, and that is the shell variation stitch. So go ahead, finish this design all the way back across, and then come back. So now I've reached the end. I finished a shell, and I have 1 double crochet stitch left from the previous row. I'm going to go ahead and make a double crochet into the top stitch of that double crochet from the previous row, or chain 3. Then we're at the wingtip, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make a chain of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I made a chain of 7. Then go ahead and turn your work. We're going to work back down this chain. Then we're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So count 4 chains from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a double crochet into that stitch. Then a double crochet into the next stitch. Then you're going to skip 2 stitches and make 5 double crochet into that next stitch. And this is what my work looks like so far. So I just added a little bit of length to the wingtip. Now you're back to the shell design from the previous row. Go ahead and make your double crochet into the space between the second and third double crochet of that previous row's shell, and then a double crochet between the third and fourth. So now you're back to your regular design. Now you're going to make a shell into those two space between those two double crochet from the previous row. And then you're just going to repeat the pattern all the way down back to the opposite side. Now, for this row, you want a total of 6 shells. So this was the chain 7 that we made, and then we crocheted back. So that was our first shell, then our second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So now, after you finish that 6th shell, you're going to stop. You're going to make one more double crochet into that same space. So you can see how I completed the shell. I'm going to make one more double crochet into that same space. And then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then turn my work. Then you're just going to work back across the same design. So you have your shell. You're going to go between the second and third double crochet of the shell and make your double crochet, and then between the third and the fourth. Then you're going to make your shell into the space between the two double crochet from the previous row. And then you're just going to repeat your pattern all the way across back to the wingtip. So now you can see how I made it all the way across, and I have one double crochet stitch left from the previous row. So I'm going to go ahead and make a double crochet into the top stitch of that last stitch on the end. Then, just like we did for this row, we're going to make a chain of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you're just going to turn your work, and again you're going to go into the 4th chain from the hook and make your double crochet into that stitch, and then make one double crochet into the next stitch, then you're going to skip 2 stitches and then make 5 double crochet into that next stitch. See if I can turn it so you can work into the stitch. So 5 double crochet into that same stitch to complete a shell. And then that will bring you to the main wing portion, and then you have your shell. You're going to go ahead and just go in between the second and the third double crochet and make your double crochet, and then you're back to your regular design, so between the third and the fourth. And then you have the 2 double crochet from the previous row that you're going to make your shell into. And then you're just going to repeat back across and then come back. Yep. Redo that one. Then you finish with a shell and you have one double crochet left on the end, so go ahead and make one double crochet into that last stitch. Then you're going to make a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then turn your work. Now we need to work back across to the wingtip. So you're going to work the same design that we've been making, and that's one double crochet between the second and the third of the previous row's shell, and then one double crochet between the third and the fourth. Then you have the 2 double crochet from the previous row that you're going to work between, and then just make your shell. So go ahead, finish this design all the way back to the wingtip, and then we'll work our last row for the wing. So after this row we have one more row left. So now I'm back at the wingtip. So then you go ahead and finish your last shell, and then you have the last double crochet. Make a double crochet into the top stitch of that last row's previous double crochet. Then you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Now for this last row we're going to make it a little bit different. So in the previous row's shell, you're going to make a shell into that third double crochet in the shell. So go into that center stitch, or the third double crochet in the middle of the shell from the previous row, and make 5 double crochet into that same stitch to complete a shell, your first shell. And we're going to be making a total of 6 shells. So 5 double crochet into the center of the previous row's shell. Then in the next space between the 2 double crochets on the previous row, you're going to make 5 double crochet to complete your second shell. And you're going to repeat this until you have a total of 6 shells that have 5 double crochet in each shell. So go ahead, finish 6 shells for this last row. After you finish your 6 shells for that last row, you're just going to take and make a slip stitch into the first double crochet from the previous row's shell. Then you can go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then you can just take your tapestry needle where you finished off, just take that loose yarn end and you're just going to weave it through your work. Make sure it's nice and buried. Then you can take and trim the loose yarn end. So now I'm going to show you how to put the craft wire on the wing. So for my wing I used Doris Wired Accents, the 12 gauge. This is an aluminum floral wire that works great. I have the 5-yard one. And I chose the pink one even though you're not going to be able to see it. Now if you don't want to use any craft wire in your unicorn, you may want to use a different style wing unless you don't mind it just flopping down. This style of wing works better with the craft wire because it holds it up. If you want a different style of wing, you can use my Magical Unicorn, the smaller one, the wing style there, but you would just make it slightly larger. Now anytime I use my craft wire, I want to use yarn to hold down the ends of it that I fold over on itself, or I found that this floral tape works great. So this from Panacea Decorative Accents Stem Wrap Tape. So I'm going to be using that on my wire, and I'll show you how I do that. So the first thing you want to do is just take and cut 24 inches of craft wire. Then you want to take and measure how much you're going to need. So this is the tip of the wing. So you want to fold back about 3 inches, 2 to 3 inches of wire, because you're going to coil that over on itself. And you can go ahead and try to fold it down so that there's a small amount of loop there as possible, and then just take and wrap the wire around on itself. And then you just want to measure from the tip of the wing, just fold the craft wire over, and then this bottom portion you're going to fold over the length that you need, which is about 2 to 3 inches again, and you can fold it back down if you need to, so because it's very malleable. Just press down the loop on the end and then just wrap the wire around the opposite side. And then you can see how you have that little end there on the wire, and that's the part that you can use string or yarn to wrap around, or you can use your floral tape, or both. I found that just the floral tape works well, so I'm just going to cut a small amount of the floral tape, and then you just take and wrap it around the piece that you want covered. And then I just go a little bit before and after that portion and just keep wrapping the tape around until you can't feel that part of the wire anymore. You just don't want it to protrude through the yarn and have it poke somebody. So I just make sure it's nice and covered, and then I just press the tape around the area and then just keep wrapping until all the tape is used up. I meant just the tape that you had cut for this portion. It's not all the tape on the floral tape. That would take you forever. So just the portions that you want covered, and then just cinch it around. And do the same thing for the other side. Now you're going to line the end, one end, with the tip, the wing tip, and then fold the craft wire along the flat side where you had your double crochet row, and then along the small portion along the bottom. And this bottom portion is the portion that goes on to the unicorn's back. So then you're going to go back to the wingtip. We're going to start with the wingtip. So now you're going to take your tapestry needle with the same colored yarn on it, and then you're going to take and go through the loop on the end, one of the ends that's going to go on the side of the wingtip. So this is the side of the wingtip. Go ahead and just tie a knot. And then you're just going to take and wrap this end just covering it up. Any part that you coiled over on itself, you're just going to take and just wrap the coil with your yarn and just cover it. Then I just took the part that I had left over after wrapping it around. I'm going to bring it right through the loop again, And then I'm going to take it and go through the wingtip and just bring it through and tie a knot. And then you're just going to bury the loose yarn end. Now you're ready to crochet this wire to the wingtip. So you're going to take your crochet hook, you're going to go under in that space at the wingtip, just go in that space to bring up a loop with your yarn. Make sure you leave enough of a loose yarn end for tying a knot and burying into your work. And now we're ready to crochet around the wire. So now I'm just going to bury the loose yarn end as I crochet. So you can see that I have the flat double crochet part facing up. I have the wing tip towards the right, and I have my yarn that I'm going to be crocheting around the craft wire. And I'm going to be molding the craft wire along the tip of the wing towards the flat area as I crochet. So I'm going to be making a half double crochet around this thicker portion and all along this wingtip until I get to the flat portion. So I'm just going to yarn over. I'm going to go into the same space, bring up a loop, and make a half double crochet. And then you're just going to evenly space, go into the next stitch and just evenly space half double crochets all around the craft wire. Now in some spaces I'll make more than one half double crochet into the same space until I have the wire covered. And don't worry if you have some of the wire showing through. We can always go back and cover it later with our tapestry needle. So just try to cover it as best as you can. Just untangling the other end from my yarn. Then I'm just going to take and make half double crochets all around the wire. And some places I'll have more than one half double crochet in the same space. So go ahead, finish making one half double crochet all around the wire, securing it to the wing. And then when you get to the flat portion, come back and I'll show you what I do at that point. And you can take and bend the wire out of the way as you crochet, because you can always just bend it back when you're finished. So whatever way that you need to move the wire so that you can angle it and crochet around it. You don't worry about how you bend the wire, because you can always bend it back. So now I just want to show you how my wingtip looks. You can't see the wire at all. Let me show you the other side. So here's the other side. You can see that it's completely covered. So now I'm at the flat portion of the wing. Now when you reach this portion, you can just kind of fold the wire along the edge, and then I made half double crochets until I get to the first stitch along the edge, and then I'm going to make a single crochet. I'm actually going to make 2 single crochet into the same stitch for the first one, and that just helps you to turn the corner. So 2 single crochet, and then now I'm flat along the edge of the wing. So now I can make one single crochet into every stitch along this flat portion. And I'm going behind the loose yarn end and the aluminum wire, and then just securing it and hiding it as I crochet around that corner. So this is how my work looks so far. You can see how I have the craft wire going all along this back edge, and now I'm at the last part of the wing. So if you have any extra, you can just kind of fold it up on the edge. And then I'm going to resume making the half double crochets around this last portion. And don't worry if you have any showing, because this is the portion that you're going to be sewing down onto the back of the unicorn. So we'll have plenty of time, plenty of chances to cover the wire completely if you don't get it completely covered at this point. So go ahead, finish crocheting around the rest of the craft wire, and then come back. Then when you've gotten to the end of the wire where I have a little bit of the loop showing through, I'm going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through, just so pull plenty through to sew this wing to the unicorn. Now before I sew it onto the unicorn, I just take my tapestry needle and I'm going to take and loop through the wire with my yarn, and then just tie a knot. So I'm just taking and tying a knot before I sew it in place onto the unicorn. So the first thing you want to do is just pull the bag out from the zipper. If you made a zipper portion on your unicorn, you don't want to sew the bag portion down as you're sewing the wings. And you can see how I sewed the first wing on. So I sewed into a rectangular formation, that way it's sturdy and holds the wing up. So you want to make sure that the tip of the wing points towards the back of the unicorn. So you want to take it so that the flat portion where we made the double crochets and the single crochet around the wire, you want to make sure that that's facing towards the head, and that the wing flap, the opposite side of the craft wire, is the side that faces the back of the unicorn. And then you just place it onto the unicorn to sew it in place. Make sure that you sew both wings so that they're even. And I lined mine up with the edge of the back, the top panel. So the edge between the top panel and the side panel is where I lined up my wing before sewing. Then I took and sewed several times around the loop to make sure that it's nice and covered. So you can see that the wire is completely covered, and I sewed into a rectangular fashion, and I covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 rows, sewing this bottom portion of the wing in place. This is what she looks like with her wings in place. I don't have all of her hair on yet. Just wanted to show you how the wings look. Here's a close-up from the side and on the other side. Now if you want to place the beads, I'm going to show you how I did that. The beads that I used are by Hildy and Joe. They come with a pack of 9 metal-lined beads. They have a really large center. So the trick with this, I'm going to show you how you can bring your yarn through quick and easy. So depending on the bead that you chose, you just have to make sure that if you're using my method, that the crochet hook will fit through the center of the bead. So here you can see that my 3.5 millimeter will fit right through the bead. so my 3.5mm crochet hook. But you'll use whatever crochet hook will fit through the center of the bead if you're using my method. So now you just take the bead that you're using, put your crochet hook through it, and then just bring up a loop of yarn through the bead. For ours, we're going to make it so that the rest of the yarn will go into the hair of the unicorn, so you can make it long. So any excess will just blend in with the hair. So whatever length you use for the hair is what you'll have excess for the bead, and then you are going to tie a knot and allow for the length of yarn that you want for it to hang on the front of the unicorn. So the first thing you want to do is just put your tapestry needle through one end of the yarn. Then you're just going to take your tapestry needle and bring it through about a stitch, and then bring the yarn through. Then you just want to bring the yarn to the level that you want it before you tie your knot. So you can see how I tied my knot. And then once you're happy with the placement, you just take the rest of the yarn and then just blend it with the hair. You can also place a braid in the mane. And this is how it looks after I placed all of my beads.